comments in the comment section to let us know that we are in fact live. Let me adjust some lighting here. Okay, that looks good. So let's see. Everybody can see us live and everything looks good. Audio is good. Jörg, do you want to test your audio?
Okay, here's my audio test. 1, 2, 3.
Beautiful. We'll give a few minutes for everybody to come in, and I'm going to check on my phone just to see. Good. We are live officially. All right, awesome. So let's. I'll give the standard preface that everybody is going to know when watching this afterwards. This is a live stream. It's a different format than standard videos. First of all, everyone knows who Jörg Sprave, right? That I'm pronouncing it right.
Almost, not bad.
Let's hear you say it once, and I'll get it forever.
Well, it's pronounced Jörg Sprave. So. And okay. I'm a Jörg and not a jerk. That's important difference. So
Jörg Sprave, awesome. And we'll get into who Jörg is in like 2 seconds. It's SCUM. I think it's going to take some time for people to get the notification, and it is actually noon, which might not be the ideal time, but we're dealing with a 6-hour time zone. So we had to make. It's more important that this happens, and anybody who misses it will watch it afterwards. But it's a live stream. Format is different. This will not be as meandering as my typical live streams. I do want to get to know Joerg a little bit because I can't get someone like him on the YouTube channel and not ask him some personal questions about his channel and everything. But then we're going to get into the YouTube Union Fairtube stuff. So I figure we should give it at least, let's give it a few minutes because it's only been live for 1 minute or going on 2 minutes. Joerg, we'll do the intro stuff just so we know. You're in Berlin now?
No, in Berlin time zone, so, okay. But the whole of Germany is in Berlin time zone. So actually the whole of Europe. But, no, it's, I am near Heidelberg. live in the countryside because I need space for my channel. And also I grew up in the Ruhrgebiet, which is extremely crowded, 20 million people within an hour of driving. So I got enough of big cities. I don't want the noise. I don't want the smoke. I don't want the traffic. Therefore, we're living in the countryside, and it's about 45 minutes away from Heidelberg.
Okay, very nice. And my last name is my real last name is Freiheit.
Yeah, well, that means freedom.
That's right. Apparently, in Berlin, there's a Freiheit street, which is well known for maybe not the best reasons. Are you familiar with that street? Or is it a well-known thing in Germany?
Well, there's of course the Große Freiheit in Hamburg, right?
What's the Große Freiheit?
Große Freiheit, you don't know that? It's actually a very, very famous street there, So, and usually you find this in seaports, because this is actually also a name for the free trade zones that they have in the ancient seaports.
Yeah. So I think I do know.
Freiheit definitely is a very positive word in Germany. Everybody wants to be free, right?
Yeah, hopefully. So Joerg, okay, your channel on YouTube is the Slingshot channel. You've been on YouTube for 10 years. Explain what the channel is for those who may not know and how you got into it.
Okay, well, my channel, as I always say, is about inventions, destruction, and stunts. So that's what I do. I invent crazy, mostly launchers, very often operated with rubber, and I launch crazy things like toilet brushes and plungers and all these stuff. And I present them on YouTube, and it's always stunts because my inventions are usually not safe. And I refuse to wear any safety gear just because I think it makes the videos more interesting. And I always describe my channel as being on the funny side of badass. So this means I never hurt anyone. I only shoot at inanimate objects. And I'm always laughing and smiling because I'm really having a good time doing these things. So my channel is non-violent, but it is somehow weapon related.
Yeah, no, I've been boning up on your channel, and I went from watching your most recent videos to your first videos, and a few in between to see the evolution because it's amazing. What do you do for a living, or what did you do for a living before getting into YouTube? Or do you do this full time, or do you have another job?
I actually went back and forth a few times. I was, for most of my life, I was an executive manager in consumer electronics. So my last position was was vice president of marketing and sales for a television manufacturer. So that is my completely different background. I have a master in business administration, so I'm an MBA. And but then about 2013, for the first time, I went full time on YouTube. And simply after a job was done, wasn't sending my resume around anymore, but just go full time YouTube. But then I got back for 2 years in my old profession because I got an offer that was just too well paid to say no to. But now currently I'm still doing YouTube, but also my merch store that is now incorporated is so big, and now we're selling all kinds of crossbows and air guns and so on. So it's really big business, and there is also a lot of work, but also a very solid income.
Amazing. So, and that store, do you manufacture them yourself? Do you design them yourself, or is it custom, or is it sort of not custom?
This shop really began when I designed a Slingshot for mass production and got an injection molding tool so that it was affordable. And but then I just reviewed like crossbows and air guns on my channel, and very often there was no distributor in Europe or in Germany. And then people asked me, "Do you want to sell this in Germany?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And now we sell like a ton of crossbows from Taiwan and China, and also from the US. And we're selling air guns made in Sweden, all these things, and it's really, really good business. So it is somehow I returned into a normal job, but it of course still depends on my YouTube channel, because my YouTube channel is the promotion for it.
Okay, so, that's an amazing thing actually from a business perspective, how people have managed either to turn their YouTube channels into featuring the stuff they sell or start selling stuff through their YouTube channel as the asset. Do you do any hunting, if I can ask, like for game, wild animal?
No, my father was a hunter, and of course he took me with him a few times, and I just came, at some point I realized I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy killing cute animals. So like a mosquito is like the biggest animal that I kill these days.
That is not a bad feature of a human. Okay, so full-time YouTube, you have you selling, you have the merch store. If I can ask, when did you go full-time YouTube without going back to your regular job or your 9-to-5 job?
Well, it's a little bit hard to say. I mean, I went away from that job, from like a fixed job, by the 1st of January 2016. But I still do a little bit of consulting. So every now and then I just go in and take on an assignment for my old job somehow, usually as like a troubleshooter, something like a little bit of interim management. So, but I like that because it also keeps my experience and my skills fresh. So, and if you have done this, like I've done consumer electronics for so long, so I think I'm rather good at it. So I don't want to really lose touch. But I don't think that I ever want to go back into an office with a suit and a tie like I did for many, many years. So,
I mean, that's the funny thing. Like having been a lawyer for forever, and you realize once you've sort of tasted the YouTube sort of life, it has its pros and it has its cons, and its cons are definitely cons. But the idea of the prospect of 7-to-7 type job is it feels stifling. I'm going to try to get to some questions as they come up, because they're actually timely questions. So you sell these types of weapons. Do you have any issues selling cross-border, no pun intended, but like internationally? Can you sell them anywhere, or are there certain restrictions you have to respect?
Well, there are different weapon laws all over the world. So, for example, Scandinavia, you sometimes need, in some of these countries, you need a license for a crossbow. Right? In Germany, that's not the case. And in actually most countries, it's not the case. And therefore, but of course, I can't know it all. So people can order for me and I ship, but sometimes customs will just simply, seize the stuff. And then probably the people that order it illegally will get into trouble. But that doesn't affect my company. I'm just telling people, check your local laws, and if then they're okay with it, then why shouldn't I supply it?
Okay, very interesting. And okay, so now you do this. You start your channel out of the blue.
As I said, I was working for consumer electronics, and way back then, like 11 years ago, I was working for a company that made nonlinear video editing systems. And YouTube was pretty new at that time. we were all still recording on tape, remember? You know, it was digital tape, but it was
I
tape.
remember VHS tape.
You cannot upload a tape to YouTube. You know, you first have to process it through the editing system. And way back then, there were a ton of issues with file formats, like audio and video out of sync, or the aspect ratio would not be correct. So it was my job to test if our files are compatible with YouTube. And I needed some video, and recently got back into Slingshots out of nostalgic reasons, and decided, okay, well then I film my Slingshots. And I still remember the day when I had like 100 people watched my video. Wow. so that was how it started. And then I think I got addicted pretty quick, you know, so.
And how quick, do you remember how quickly you grew? Like if it was popular within the first year, or if you were getting, you know, just a few hundred views for an extended period of time?
I remember that my 600th subscriber got a Slingshot from me. So it was that slow that I was really, almost 600. And then now, of course, I have days where I'm making a few thousand subscribers in a single day, right? So. And
when did, if I can ask, like, do you remember when you noticed the pop in your channel, when it really took off?
Yeah, it's always the viral videos. If you have a viral hit, then you win a huge amount of subscribers. So, and then you're on a different level. So it really is like, and then some viral hit, and then, you know, so the growth in between the viral hits isn't really all that fast. And ever since, of course, YouTube started with the apocalypse, for a channel like mine, it's almost impossible to make a viral hit because demonetized videos are exempt from recommendation system, and therefore viral hits are really rare these days, except if you have something that's completely non-controversial.
Okay, and that's interesting, and we're gonna get into that actually, because that's I suspect there was a reason that you were brought into this. There's a reason why you got into the Fairtube.org, but I want to get there slowly, but not too slowly. Just for my own benefit, do you remember your first viral video?
Yeah, that was when I was actually shooting machetes with my Slingshot. So that was obviously so new that people were fascinated by it. And that got like out of the blue, it got like over 1 million views, which my channel was very small back then. It was a huge viral hit for me. So
that's amazing. Okay, now, and so now I noticed one video a while back. The audio was off, and I was reading through the comment sections. What was the video? You were testing something into ballistic gel, but I suspect that's not too infrequent. But there was no audio on the video, and a lot of people were saying that the audio was removed because you were using an AC/DC song or something to that effect. But this is like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that was a very old video, and that was completely different. Actually, you know, for a long time you could do that, and you could upload. I think that was probably a video that's more like 8 or 9 years old. But way back then, copyright laws didn't really affect YouTube much. So that video had audio for many years, and eventually YouTube muted it because they changed the copyright laws. And of course, I'm not complaining because obviously I shouldn't have used the AC/DC song. Right?
Oh, no,
it was a different time, you know, and I didn't know. So.
Oh, you don't know. The reason I was asking was not for any blame at all. It was only I could figure if I had a video that was going quasi-viral, even if it had audio in it, and if they delete the audio or mute the audio without telling me, it could be. I was wondering if that was sort of the trigger that brought you into this world of the union. But what was the trigger? Like, I imagine there was some decisive moment where you said this isn't right, and I've got to try to figure out a solution to these issues.
Well, first of all, what really brought me into this is that I think YouTube had like a golden age between 2012 and 2017, where it was quite fun to be a YouTuber. You know, you had only very basic rules. YouTube actually loved your channel as long as you brought the views in, you know, and didn't really care about the content as long as it was not breaking the community guidelines, obviously. But that was really, you know, you could be really creative and you could actually interact with the YouTube people. I actually met with the YouTube people many times. I've been a teacher at many of their events, teaching, you know, smaller channels how to grow and how to make money and so on. And then it started to change very quickly when the apocalypse happened, and I realized YouTube is no longer fun for a creator. And I said, that's not right. I mean, we need to fix this. I also thought I would have to do it because I'm financially not depending on YouTube. So yes, my income went down much, but that doesn't mean that I'm out of a job. I'm still very good financially, so I don't really need the AdSense income, but a lot of my fellow creators actually need it, and actually a lot of them lost their existence. And I think because I don't depend on the job, I can do it. I can go ahead and we act very aggressively towards YouTube without risking my existence. So that's why I decided to start the union and start yelling at YouTube.
All right, and we're going to get into that. I'm going to just use this as a pretext. If everyone can tweet the link out, just in case there's people who haven't got the notification, share the link and tweet it around so that we can get as many people in as possible. Okay, so you're making videos, everything's going well. The golden age, 2012. And incidentally, that's sort of when I discovered YouTube with my first squirrel video in 2014. I don't know if it was easier or harder to go viral then. I just noticed that I had a channel with no specific direction, and within a few years, let's say 2 years, managed to put up a couple of videos that got over millions of views each. There was the squirrel video that got 7 million views, this ostrich egg cooking video which got 6 million views, the bucket drummer, and I don't know how things worked back then because I didn't pay attention to anything. I just know what I see today. So like, what difference do you notice? I mean, what difference is there that you notice, that you know of, or that you have information on? Like, what changed over time, and what was the change?
Well, first of all, the biggest change was really that YouTube started to look into the content itself. Up until 2017, YouTube never looked into content. Only if people flagged the video because violation of the guidelines, then YouTube would look into a video and decide if it had to be removed or not. But that changed, and then they started to really analyze every video with their bots, and of course also with more than 10,000 sensors that they call raters. I call them sensors. And these people then decide what happens to this video, and they do it quite quickly. So this means that now it's a curated platform. Actually, I think that YouTube now is more like a publisher and no longer just a platform, because they decide what kind of videos are allowed, and they also decide what kind of videos get a chance to go viral. So that is completely different. And I think that they're now controlling the creators in a way that it's actually no longer fun to be a creator. That's what I think.
For anybody who doesn't know, and my memory on it is hazy because I wasn't like fully involved then. The first adpocalypse. Do you want to explain what that was for everybody?
Yes. It's actually what happened is that there was an ISIS video where someone got beheaded. And actually for a very short time, until people flagged that video, there was actually an advertisement on it. So I think they played ads next to an ISIS beheading video. And then the press, of course, made a huge fuss about it. And then a lot of the big advertisers decided to go on strike. They said, we will not place any advertisements and no commercials on YouTube anymore unless YouTube finds a way to make sure that we are not shown next to horrible content. So YouTube completely reconsidered and totally caved in and started to do that. They are now putting each video into one of 2,500 different categories, put all kinds of classifiers on them. A lot of videos are completely demonetized. This means that there won't be any ads in it, so this video won't ever make any money. And many other videos have this, what I call the hidden demonetization. This means that advertisers can opt out. So let's say in your log you talk about politics or religion or whatever, and it doesn't matter what you say about it. But if you talk about an issue that they say is controversial, then they will put you into that kind of category, and the advertisers can simply check mark you off, so that you would only see a fraction of the ads. And of course, the fewer ads a video has, the fewer chances it has to be recommended by YouTube. This means that a great amount of creators have seen a major hit on their channel. So income went down. Everybody knows these nasty messages that you get, one more video demonetized, and so on. So it's completely changed now. Now you have to be super careful what you upload. And since YouTube doesn't even tell you the rules, they don't even explain to you what the rules are exactly. Creators are left to experimentation. You have to experiment. So people upload a video and it doesn't get monetization. So they try to change things and re-upload it and see if it then makes it and so on. But that's not fun. That is absolutely it's the opposite of fun. It's desperate measures. That's what it is. So.
And if I may ask, because you have some specific details in terms of number of sensors and these things. How do you know this stuff? Sort of what allowed you to have this type of knowledge? I mean, how do you know it basically?
Well, first of all, there's many journalists that cover it. I think the most popular one is probably Julia Alexander from The Verge. She actually continuously brings out great reports about how that works. But also, of course, I have some insights inside of the company because I have a fairly big channel and I do have direct contacts into YouTube. So I also learned a lot about this. Of course, since I run the YouTube union, a lot of people leak information to me. So not everyone who works at Google loves Google very much. So there are leaks.
So this is very interesting because these are some questions that I've always had that, I tweet to Susan Wojcicki and Team YouTube and whatever. I'm a nobody and nobody gets back to me. But so these sensors, you upload a video, now it's looking for the actual content itself. And did you say it has like categories that it will put videos into? You mean, yes, like exactly. Politics, religion, hunting, guns, comedy?
You can actually look up all these categories by simply just playing Advertiser. So you go on their advertisement platform, and you act like you want to place an advertisement, then you get all these options. How can they give you these options when they're not analyzing each video, right? So
that is logical and actually
logical, right? So yes, the moment you upload a video, actually before it's even completed the upload, the bots will get to work and analyze everything, and they do this basically on a few information sources, like the audio transcript, but also, of course, the title of the video, the text information that you have. And also they search for certain images like firearms or other things that are like, Google has this technology. They can analyze pictures. So from these information sources, they run it against the blacklist. So if you use a few words that are on the blacklist, chances are your videos will be demonetized. For example, I have made a video about how to make a katana, like the ancient way. So it was called Katana, the Naked Truth. But there was the word naked in the title, and therefore it was demonetized because Google's bots thought it's an erotic video. So it's a blacklist. They say it's an artificial intelligence. It's simply a dynamic blacklist. That's what it is. And
my wife gets mad at me every time I put tag words in, and I put in the word conspiracy, but not in like the conspiracy theory type sense, but rather in the legal sense, like the something conspiracy. And she's saying you're putting in these tag words, they're gonna flag the video just based on the tag words. Is my wife right?
No, it's actually, I think she's absolutely right. I mean, you now have to be really careful what you do. So you have to try to avoid all of this. And since they're not really telling you what kind of words are on this blacklist, because they don't want to be reverse engineered, the thing is that you have to guess. It's really guesswork. And since you only see the open demonetization. So when everybody knows this, when you get the yellow dollar sign and the video is completely demonetized. But all the smaller demonetizations, like if you've been put into categories, you don't see and you cannot appeal. This means that the bots are often wrong, but the YouTuber cannot do anything against it. He can only guess that something happened to the video because you see it's not performing well. You see it doesn't make the amount of money that it should be making. So this is the issue, and I think it's completely unacceptable. You cannot. YouTube calls the YouTubers partners, but that's not what you do to a partner, right? If you don't like the work of a partner, then you tell the partner why you don't work it. Give him a chance to fix it. So,
and Jörg, are you able to confirm? I mean, in as much, or to the greatest extent that you can confirm that it's true, are demonetized videos, or limited ads? Let's just say the yellow icon. Does YouTube not promote them as much? Do they not promote them at all, or do they actually de-rank them or de-promote them?
Okay, well, I had this discussion with one of YouTube's vice presidents. Talked about that, this at length, because I could actually prove that there was a direct relationship between it. So I had a video that did okay on the statistics, and then the moment it was demonetized, it dropped to almost zero. Then I filed an appeal, and the appeal was actually successful. So after a few days, it got remonetized, and it jumped right back to where it used to be. So I confronted them with that evidence, and it turns out that there is no direct link between the demonetization and to be hidden from search and discovery. That's how YouTube calls the recommendation engine. But there is a second classifier, and that is called mature audience. And that classifier is almost all the time, like I would say in 99% of the cases, it's slapped on at the same time as they put the demonetization on you, because it's reacting to the same blacklist. So this means that your chances that a video, when it's demonetized, is also being put to mature audio is very, very, very high. There's very few exceptions where they wouldn't be there to both. And if the mature audio classifier is on it, which you don't see, then automatically the video will be hidden from search and everything. It's dead in the water. The video, forget it. Won't go anywhere.
The question I had: if it's put on mature content, there's no icon for that. We don't know, but it's just there in I don't say purgatory, but it's there and it's not going to go anywhere really.
Right. So there, you don't mix this up with the age restriction, because that's a completely different team in YouTube. It's actually far more lenient. Very few videos ever get age restricted, because there's only so many videos that are still, following the community guidelines, and at the same time, not okay for everybody. So it is far more critical. So anything you show, like marching soldiers, even if they have no guns, you have a very high chance that they will put an age maturity on it. So
just to summarize now in like a paragraph. So you have your monetized versus your demonetized. That's the icon that people can see, green versus yellow.
And if it's yellow, then your chances that this video will be excluded from the recommendation engine is super high. I think higher than 99%. But that's not because of the demonetization, because of the very similar age restriction that they put on it that you don't see, that is invisible for you.
Okay, and that's another. So then, if it's green, typically you're good to go. It's up in the air. It's not like, can it be green with an age restriction or a mature?
Absolutely, and also it can have a million other classifiers on it. YouTube, of course, really only wants the videos that are fully monetized, that have no negative classifier on them. It wants people to watch that video. Of course, the more ads are in there, the more money does Google make. So a video that is green will typically be recommended some more, but the only videos that can really make it to viral status these days are videos that are completely fully monetized. Plus also, you must understand that with the apocalypse, YouTube also changed one other very important factor, and that is the criteria for making it into trending and recommended. Up to 2017, YouTube would only look at other YouTube videos. So if you had a YouTube video that people liked more than average, and that people watched more than average, then YouTube would recommend that video to some more users if they liked it too, even more, and so on. So this is the mechanics between viral videos pre-2017. But now they've changed it. Now they're looking at what is discussed on the general web, not just YouTube, but on the general web, using Google, of course, for that. They have that search engine, obviously.
Yeah.
So now this means that if you want to make it big on YouTube, you need to make it big on the general web first. That explains why if someone, let's say, Will Smith uploads a video, it's an instant success and an instant viral hit, because the guy is talked about a lot on the general web. So YouTube's recommendation engine will really support him. Same is for like news. So if you are like a news blogger, you need about 1.5 million views to make it into trending. But AP or CNN only need about 10,000 views to make it into trending, because they're so famous on the general web. If you think about this, this automatically means that now, as a small YouTuber, you have almost no more chances to really grow big. You need to be famous on the general web, and so the best strategy to become a successful YouTuber is be a hero in a Hollywood movie. So that's the situation today.
For anybody who, I think everybody in this chat knows, or in this live stream knows, that Google owns YouTube, which is why they are merging these. Well, which is why they're so easy to merge these two technologies and these two platforms into one mega platform. That's it. So, I just got asked to satisfy my own curiosity. You know this because you've had these discussions with people internally who have confirmed that this is how YouTube is now operating.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to say any names, but yes, this was confirmed to me from people in YouTube on vice president level. Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, now all of this I know, and I can read the minds of everybody in the chat. All of this coincides. You say 2017. I think maybe a lot of people are thinking that this might have been a response to something that happened in 2016. I mean, is this, in your mind, is this addressing a real problem, or is this political at its core?
Well, first of all, let me say that people at YouTube are not evil. Often people say this, they Google this is not evil, and that's not the case. Everyone that I met in YouTube is actually, these are good people. They're only trying to do their jobs, and they're also under an enormous amount of pressure. Specifically Google, as you can see now, the governments of the world are chasing them down the road with mighty force, slapping huge fines on them left and right for like abusing their monopolistic power, for all kinds of things that they do. So they're under a lot of pressure. And also like advertisers, they now have the upper hand, and they actually, that's where the money is coming from. So obviously they also need to please their advertisers. I think the biggest problem that YouTube now has is that they still only pay people that have videos with ads. And I think that's the problem. Since it would be a little bit like if you run a TV channel, like a TV network, you would say nobody wants to put a commercial into the news, so we won't pay the news anchor anymore, since obviously he's not attractive for advertisers. If you do this, then your program no longer exists, so you would actually lose a lot of parts of your audience too. I think YouTube simply needs to go back to pay creators based on the amount of views and the amount of watch time they get, and not based on if there's ads in their videos or not. Because otherwise, YouTube will very soon be a very boring place, since they would filter out everything that is in the slightest interesting. So imagine a news show with nothing controversial in it. A news show that's not allowed to report about war, revolution, politics, religion. So
I would push back on that idea. And I mean, what if for someone who says, I don't buy that argument. People advertise, we grew up in Quebec and we had like erotic television. There were people who wanted to advertise on that, and they didn't care about the content. They cared about the eyes on, the number of eyes on the show. There's a lot of people who say that this people refusing to advertise on political or whatever content is a pretext, and it's actually not true, because advertisers only care about attention. They don't necessarily, except the egregious cases of like, racism or violence and awful things. Generally speaking, they only care where the attention is. And if it's on a political commentary, that's where they want to advertise. And some people say that this is just a pretext for YouTube to curate the content the way they want. And it's not an actual it's not the actual reason.
Well, actually, that is completely different on YouTube. Maybe that's the case elsewhere, because maybe on TV people are more able to make a distinction between what is programming and what's advertisement. But on YouTube, that's the case. I know that like the advertisers on YouTube, they get a list at the end of the month of all videos that actually they played their ads against. And even if there's only a slightly controversial video in it, they will call YouTube up and really say, I won't pay the bill, I don't. And then, get reports. They say, okay, now imagine there is a meeting, like a sales meeting in YouTube headquarters, just all the top dogs are there. They're talking about weekly results. And then the marketing guy comes in and says, you know what, Coca-Cola just canceled a 2 billion advertisement campaign because you assholes have been showing their advertisement against this crazy German who shoots plungers through ballistic gelatin. Thank you very much. You just ruined my entire numbers. Right? So this is the discussions that they get.
Okay, that's interesting, because that is, people will either believe it or they won't, or they'll take it at with a certain grain of salt. But it is interesting. You have definitely more knowledge than I do, and I have theories and whatever unsubstantiated ideas. But that is very interesting. If in your experience and with your connections and the people that it is actually a real thing where these advertisers don't want to be advertising on. I can only think of Styx Hexenhammer 666, a political channel, because of what he says and the way he says it. Whereas I would, in my mind, I'd be thinking people would want to advertise wherever the eyes are, and if the eyes are on Tim Pool or these politically controversial guys, that they would advertise there. But if in your experience that's not the case, that's definitely good for people to know.
There actually are companies that don't care. But let's not forget that YouTube now is so big that they need the big budgets. They cannot work just with a gas station around the corner who probably wouldn't mind being next to a controversial video. They need Coca-Cola, they need BMW and Audi, they need Chrysler, they need these budgets. And these people with a very, really valuable brand, they care about their brand so much that they don't want any negative effect on it. So it needs to be as pure as possible, and they are totally anal with that, believe me.
So it's very interesting. And now if I'm putting this all together in my head, I do notice, even on my last video on the New York Times article on Kavanaugh, is demonetized, or it has the yellow icon, so limited to no ads. But I keep seeing an ad on it, and it's this ad for this horror movie, not on Netflix, not on Hulu. It's on another streaming service, but I keep seeing that ad. So that's to say, do I understand correctly then that there will be some ads that maybe they don't care, but those ads are worth 1 cent per 10,000 views, as opposed to a Coca-Cola ad, which they'll pay $1 for 10,000 views?
That's it. It says limited or no ads. This means there are some ads, but this is advertisers can opt in. So they can say per default, you're not placing any ads in that. But of course, if they set the check mark and says, okay, I want to be in these drastic movies, in these drastic videos, then they can do that. And then that works. So this means that you will still get some ads, but very, very few. And if you look at your income, even though you had this ad, I don't think that this video of yours made a lot of money. So.
No, and I do, and incidentally, I notice a relative ratio, like just say how many dollars per 10,000 views that I get. I do notice a difference, obviously, when the video has been demonetized, limited to no ads, versus when it comes back. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's interesting. I mean, that's very interesting. So if a big brand or if a big account finds out that their ads have been running on content that they don't necessarily want to be associated with, they will flip their lid, go internally, pull their ads, pull their money, and then whoever's managing that account at YouTube is going to have some splaining to do, as we say.
That is the reality, and therefore these people are really fighting. So they really only try. I mean, they're not evil people. They just try to be successful, which they are. I mean, the numbers are great. Numbers are up at YouTube. And the only question is this going to stay the same? Because YouTube is getting more and more boring, and you can see that now they are slowly getting competition.
Yeah, but Jörg, now I'm going to go back to the political side, where people are going to say, okay, it's. I know people are thinking it, and I've tested the waters. They're going to say these companies are typically left-leaning companies now saying to YouTube, I don't want to be associated with right-wing commentary stuff. And so basically what you end up having is politicized corporate entities steering the political commentary by only agreeing to advertise with their own, what they consider to be the right political ideology. And so those who think that it is something of a political influence are not necessarily wrong. It's one politically oriented entity saying, I'm only going to advertise on content that fits my political views.
Yeah, that's why I said initially that I believe that YouTube is now a publisher, because they're curating the content, and versus they used to be a platform where everybody could say whatever they wanted. So now they're clearly taking sides, like any publisher does that. I mean, every magazine, every TV network has a political agenda, and they're following that up, and YouTube does the same. I'm not saying it's not the right to do that, but they have a monopoly, and if you have a monopoly, you need to be very careful what you do. So,
okay, very interesting. And now I'm not super good on the super chats type thing. I'm trying to read the comments one easy way, and I hate asking for it. I'm not even asking for it. If there's a super chat, I do see it come through. I'm trying to read the questions as they do come through, but I'm not able to do it. Towards the end of this, what I'll just say is anyone who has a question that I didn't see, repost it, and we'll try to get to them. Yeah, so the publisher versus platform, I've touched on in a few videos. I think it's just a question of time before legislation comes in to revert back to the platform as opposed to the publisher, or start to treat them as a publisher, and in which case there's going to be the other financial pushback, which is going to be people suing the publisher as though they're a publisher for the content that they curate, and in which case they may voluntarily go back to being a platform, but that is either legislation or litigation away, and we're not there yet. But I think we agree on that. You are of the opinion that Facebook, Google, these big Twitter, they've entered the realm of publisher as opposed to platform.
Well, specifically YouTube, I'm not so much an expert for these other platforms, but on YouTube, I think that's the case, basically because they're paying only the creators that upload videos that pleases them. So if they would change that, if they would pay everyone and still only run ads next to content that the advertisers like, then that would be different. Because the advertiser doesn't have a problem that other creators get paid. The advertisers just don't want their ads to show up next to controversial videos. So if YouTube would decouple it and would the financial side would be independent from the content side, from the ad side, then they would not be a publisher, because then they would not have any influence on the content itself. So I think it is possible, but they need to get away from this, because right now, of course, with the financial impact that their decisions have, they're controlling the content. Clearly, a lot of, like you see in the gaming industry, is currently much the talk. First they demonetized all the gaming stuff for games for adults. So a lot of these gamers concentrated on Minecraft and stuff, because that was still monetizable. And now the US government forces them to demonetize those videos. That basically now they have told all the gaming channels to go find some other place to dwell. So it's
amazing. It's amazing.
It only brings them into trouble. They need to decouple content from ads. Otherwise, it's going to bring them into trouble from many, many different sides.
Okay. And first of all, 3 steps sideways. Thank you very much. Tommy Stewart, while I just see the question right now. Okay, hold on. We'll get to that question later. It's not what we're talking about right now. Okay, so one other thing now, in terms of what makes a video go up the ranking, because it's a personal frustration. I'll put out a video. It'll get 10,000 views, maybe. It'll get 98% plus thumbs up. It'll get 500 comments, and then it never goes anywhere. Where I was brought up on the older videos on the algorithms, which were, it's about watch time, it's about comments, it's about activity, it's about thumbs up or thumbs down, if depending on whatever's getting the action. But now I'm getting the genuine feeling it's not about that at all. It's actually, it may be about that, but coupled with the content, if it's political, they're just going to kill it, and they're not going to recommend it, depending on the politics that are being discussed in it, or the substance.
I think you're right. I think that they put you in such a category. You must understand that first you have those videos that won't be recommended because they don't like it for whatever reason, right? And then second, we also have the fact that they only recommend videos that are, as I already explained, about things that are generally trending on the web. So your video probably is both. They don't like it very much, and plus it's not talked about elsewhere. So your video has no chance to ever go viral. And since that is the case, you will probably also see that your growth rate on your channel is now a lot slower than it used to be.
So, the growth rate, yeah. Well, I've noticed it's sort of been there. I had a month where it was great, and then it just went back down. And I think it was a month where there was apparently it sort of coincided with some changes in the algorithm. It was give or take April 2019, where I picked up 30,000 subs in a month, hit 100,000, and then back down to 30 to 120 in a day, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't expect. I mean, my content is not political per se; it's legal. And I sort of say it's like fact-based legal, which for whatever the reason, people tend to accuse it of being more to the right than to the left. But it's sort of fact-based legal and critiquing what's going on. But I can see how people would, within YouTube, it would be within a certain category that they would not want to recommend, even though I find it shocking and silly. But that's the reality of my channel. But I also found that even when I was doing family vlogs and the daily stuff, the growth wasn't there anyhow, but that might have just been because I was trying to break into a market that was already overly saturated.
Yeah, that can be. But don't forget that the bots aren't that smart. So even if your content is legal and not political, if you're using the same keywords, if you're triggering those blacklists, then the bots don't really know what your channel is about and what your video is about. They only analyze against their blacklist. And I think that a lot of terms will probably be the same in a legal video than in a political video. So
actually, I'm thoroughly convinced you're right. And I said like 9 of my last 12 videos were demonetized right from upload. But in the history of my YouTube channel, if I've had 100 videos demonetized, 96 of them have been remonetized after manual review. I've only had 3 that I can think of that were, no, let's say 6. That were confirmed demonetized after manual review, and 2, they were all dealing with Julian Assange, legal breakdowns, not political commentary. Covington kids. These are political issues in North America, or issues that have been politicized, but they have interesting legal aspects to them.
Of course, yeah, sure.
Okay, so this is cool now. So now I think if I've forgotten any questions about like the actual problems now. So you notice all these problems. when do they sort of confirm to you in the sense that now you decide it's time to do something about it?
Well, when I started this, I mean, I started in spring of 2018. I started so just a year and a half ago, I started the union. And actually, YouTube contacted me pretty quickly. So, and I had many talks with them. So I even have been to San Bruno twice and met with them in Zurich, where they have a big headquarters. So there's been a lot of talk. It's just that nothing ever happened. So, they always talked and they always had reasons why they couldn't do certain things. And at some point I realized I need to put pressure on them. Otherwise, nothing is going to change. And so that's why I teamed up with the IG Metal and formed Fairtube, because that gave me access to, the IG Metal's resources and experience and political connections. So
very interesting. And now, had you had any connection to IG Metal before, given what you did on your channel?
Well, first of all, I had connections to IG Metal because companies that I worked for, had been represented by that very trade union. The only thing is, of course, I was then on the management side, so we weren't very good friends back then. But no, it's changed because we met at a conference. That was like a conference about like platform economy and crowd working and so on. So there was a discussion panel that I was invited to, and they also were invited to it. So we got into touch afterwards. And then I visited them in their headquarters in Frankfurt and presented the case of the YouTubers, which they don't know. It's actually a big problem. People don't know how shitty existence is, of a creator is these days. So I explained it to them, and they were completely shocked. And then we said, well, let's do this together. So, and then of course it took them a long, long time to put the lawyers onto it and got the legal opinions made. Well, you're a lawyer yourself, you know that these things take time. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And incidentally, I mean, in as much as I can know you based on our discussions in your videos, you seem tough and fair. And even tough and fair is a good combination, because even your adversaries will respect you and like you when you are no longer their adversaries. It's when someone is tough and unfair or underhanded that the adversaries don't really forgive them for those types of indiscretions. So I can see how even your adversary 10 years ago would work with you now. And I can sort of see how YouTube, even though you are technically pushing back on them to change a little bit, they can still, they like you and they respect you to deal with you. Whereas other people might not even respond to, regardless of how big their channel was.
Yeah, that's true. So I have a little better access to YouTube. That is definitely true. Also because I've been doing this so long. But I also have to say that I love YouTube. I mean, a lot of people just think that we're here to destroy YouTube. It's not the case. I think YouTube is a wonderful place. It changed my life very much. And still, I like to be a YouTuber, even though it's no longer as fun as it used to be. So I'm not trying to destroy YouTube. I'm just trying to make it a better place for everyone. Because I'm also totally convinced that if they would listen to us and if they would actually implement the changes that we are asking for, I think it would make the entire platform more successful. Because if the creators are not happy, the users are not happy. And if the creators and the users are not happy, advertisers won't be happy either.
Well, that's the risk. Is I've been saying this for a while, but that YouTube just becomes television and people move to another platform, and then YouTube is like that TV, which you can't see behind me. That the only time I watch it is for specific stuff like poker and Simpsons on DVD. Okay, so 2018, you start the YouTubers Union, or you start Fairtube?
Fairtube? No, I started Fairtube much later. Fairtube is only like a few months old officially. But I started to talk to the IG Metal in the fall. So about a year ago, I started to talk to them. And then it developed from there on. And it's actually been a very, very busy time. And the biggest problem was that I couldn't really talk about it. So people in the union thought there was not much going on anymore. But you know how it is. First thing you do is you sign an NDA. So so you can only talk about this if everything is made official. So for a long time, I had to work very hard, but in the dark. So
okay, and now the official partnership with IG Metal. I mean, what does that look like exactly? What are they doing, and how are you working with them? And what are the resources that they have that you're tapping into to try to get this done?
First of all, they have 2.3 million paying members. So it's an incredibly rich organization. And that's always a good partner. If they have plenty of money, it's a good start. They also have the best labor lawyers and unemployment on the payroll that you can find in Europe, because that's actually their specialty. So, the lawyers that I'm talking to, actually, they write the commentaries for labor law in Europe, right? So they are on every judge's desk, what they've been writing. So they are really, really knowledgeable. Also, the IG Metal has a whole team just focused on crowd working, because like 5 years ago, they decided that the nature of labor changes and they need to change their structure. They are, used to be a very conventional trade union, which isn't really functioning anymore in the digital world. So they decided to change that. And so they started a new department. And they put, I think, their most talented and smartest people in there. So the team that I'm working with is top notch. They're all really smart. You probably saw my interview with the Six Silver Man, who's an American, right? So it's that for a German trade union to employ an American, that's a big step, believe me.
Okay, so and now this is the obvious question I guess a lot of people are going to ask. As of now, what is IG Metal getting out of this? Who is funding or who is financing their efforts? Where is that money coming from?
It's from their money, of course. I haven't really made any money. I've never even asked for donations, so I'm all doing this unpaid. But for me, I have no one on the payroll, so for me, it's not that I really have to use cash. But they, of course, actually have quite a budget for this. And what they want is the publicity. They want, of course, to be known as the trade union that also deals with crowd working and so on, that they understand the new age and the new time. So they have a huge interest in developing themselves and bringing themselves into the modern era. So that's their main motivation, I think.
Okay, that's very interesting, because that was one of the thoughts I had is to join Fairtube. There's no membership fee. There's no union fee for the YouTube union.
Okay, this is the internet. We're still having national laws, right? But the internet is an international entity now. So I think that in the modern age, a union is a movement, and it's not a conventional trade union organization. Can't work, because how do you deal with people coming from all over the world, working on the same platform as colleagues? But, it's a completely different sets of laws responsible for them. This can only be a movement, and I believe that a conventional organization like a trade union cannot work in this on the internet. So.
Okay, that's great. And it's interesting. Now, a lot of people were saying that this shouldn't be a union. It should be more of a guild. And for anybody who doesn't know the difference, a guild is for independent contractors or craftsmen versus union for employees. And I was just looking into it on my own time, but I don't think the distinction would have any practical difference in terms of how it's dealt with. They both charge membership fees. They both do collective bargaining and whatever. But I think it's more semantics than practical. But so IG Metal, thus far, it's not like everyone who's joined from YouTube or the YouTube creators, they're not paying a membership or a union fee or whatever dues to IG Metal. IG Metal is doing it on their own dime.
Actually, Fairtube is a joint venture between the IG Metal and the YouTubers Union. And Fairtube also is like a platform where there's no membership fees, no nothing. And same is for the YouTubers Union. So it doesn't cost anything to join us. But of course, some people have joined the IG Metal because they can actually be beneficial. For example, then you automatically covered legally. So if you're a YouTuber, and you have then legal issues, and you are in Germany, then the IG Metal may make sense. But if you're outside of Germany, much less so, right? So, of course.
And it's a non-judgmental question. Everybody thinks like there's some sort of awfulness about asking to be paid for the work that you're doing, or being so. So it is interesting. So IG Metal, if they're going to get new union members in Germany, those members are going to pay their dues, and that's sort of indirectly how they're going to recoup or get compensated.
No, it's not happening that often, really. I think they're really doing this to gather attention for their efforts to really also cover crowd working. And I believe that they are right, because in the future, a lot more people will make their living on the internet, and they probably also need a union. It's just that the YouTubers Union, people mix this up that is really like a union, like, I don't know, Teamsters or whatever, right? That's not the case. I'm taking the union word on the basic source, where it's coming from, because I think that unified, we can do something. If we don't unify as creators, we're all small and independent and weak. and we won't be able to change anything. Only if we do this together, we have a chance to really do something and achieve something. And therefore, it is not for trade union. Clearly, it is not. It is a movement, but I call it union because that's what the union is supposed to do. It's unifying individual small workers.
And, you know, I'm going to we'll get into the concerns that a lot of people have when any union gets involved. And I'm from Quebec, where we are heavily unioned, and it has, you know, they responded to issues up until a point, and then it began to be that they created potentially more issues. But we're going to get there for the time being. But right now, I just want to make sure I understand it. So, okay, so right, I mean, typically a union is going to threaten its employer with strikes, with disorder, whatever. What is IG Metal? What is Fairtube going to threaten, or what is their bargaining power against YouTube, and what are they leveraging right now?
Okay, well, we have three different. Oh, let me put it that way. We have three different things that we want to do. So first of all, we have two legal issues. The first one is absolutely clear. You know that I think that in a lot of countries, a lot of big markets for YouTubers are very, very close to be seen as employees now. You probably heard of the AB5 law in California, so they definitely are very close to also run into this issue in California itself. That's right where they're located. But also a lot of countries in Europe, you know, they have a set of questions that they would ask about the nature of the employment, and then decide if this is a contractor or someone who is employed. And now, with all the control that YouTube issues over the creators regarding the content, in you know, a lot of these questions, you would have to say these are clearly more employees than contractors, because of course, you know, YouTubers these days don't feel like they're employees. But on the other hand, are we really typical independent video production companies? Are we really independent? I mean, an independent video production company has a choice of different customers that they can go to sell something that they've made. You know, if they got an order from them and the customer doesn't like the result, they get a chance to fix it before, you know, it's been turned down, and they won't get paid. You know, so all these things YouTubers can't do. We just depend on this one platform, and this platform tells us what to do, and we have to follow. So this is very difficult for employees. So this is one of the things where we're clearly saying, okay, YouTube, if you don't talk to us and change and make the life of a creator better, then we will put you to court and see if maybe European courts see YouTubers as employees. And that would be very expensive for them. Right?
Yeah, and now incidentally, for anybody, we will not delve into the legalities of it. Just the 30,000-foot overview is typically to determine if someone's an employee versus an independent contractor. Criteria is like one of control, one of how much of their revenue is derived from that one source, one as to whether or not they can work elsewhere. Fundamentally, I mean, you'll have lawyers in this, and they'll give their opinions, and you can test the theory. I think the issue might be one where even if someone is getting 100% of their revenue from YouTube, and YouTube exercises a great degree of control, the argument might be that no one is compelling them by any form of exclusivity to stay with YouTube exclusively. But it's an interesting theory because...
But you also have to keep in mind that, like, the IG Metal is extremely influential politically, specifically when it comes to labor laws. They're pretty much dictating these laws to German and European politicians. So even if right now the system would still say, okay, they are not employees, that may change. Because, you know, if the European Union believes that YouTube creators need more protection, they will get this protection. Believe me, the EU will not watch an American company exploiting the workforce, European workforce, without doing anything against it. So it's only a question of time until these laws will change, since they're currently not really fitting for the gig economy, but that will change. And then YouTube will have to accept that they're really in a danger of losing a lot of money. So
that's very interesting. I mean, the other thing is, I know you're going into the partnership side where we are all YouTube partners in a real sense, because they've identified us as partners. We applied for partnership status and they gave it to us. Then
we have a contract that says we're partners.
Yeah, and then the question is, even in a partnership, it's not, you know, there can be uneven balances of power in a partnership, but there has to be good faith dealings, transparency, and all sorts of other legal obligations, which I have no doubt. I would feel much stronger on that legal argument than the employee argument, but I do see where you're going with that. Okay, so that's
just to apply pressure. We don't want YouTubers to be employees. I don't want to be a Google employee for sure, right? But on the other hand, it's just to apply pressure and also to offer help, to say, hey, YouTube, if you work together, we can make this argument go away. Because if you just change a few things, nothing that really will cost you a lot of money, but that will make creators' life so much better and so much more independent, then this argument is off the table and we don't have to deal with it anymore. So this is also something that we would like to help YouTube, because I think in a lot of cases they just don't see the creator side very much. They're so focused on their point of view and the advertisers that I think that they need some input from creators really to understand how it feels for us. But it's also coming to the second argument, which is a data protection argument. In Germany, we have the GDPR, which is a data protection law, very, very powerful, very strong. And that law says that you cannot store any personal data about someone as a platform without telling them. Latest when people ask and say, please tell me what kind of data have you stored about me personally, then they have to open up. And if they're not doing it, they're actually breaking the law. And the fees and the fines for these laws are extremely expensive. It's like 4% of Alphabet's annual revenue. So we're talking many billions here. So this is actually very expensive. And here we're also adamant. I believe that YouTube needs to tell us in what categories they put our videos into, and they also need to give us means to appeal if we think that this was a wrong decision. If they're not doing it, they're breaking the law. We demand that YouTube follows the law. They're not above the law, and we demand it. And if YouTube doesn't really cave in, we will actually sue. It's absolutely clear. We have legal opinions written up, and this is absolutely, you can debate about this employee thing, but you cannot debate about the data protection law because it's been written for companies like Google and Facebook and so on. Right?
Yeah,
So,
no, it's very interesting. So let's just say the threat, or call it the threat or the bargaining stick with the union right now is not striking, and it's not civil disobedience, but rather it's a lawsuit, and we'll test out these theories in court. And then, a couple of years down the line, we'll have an answer to these questions. And in the meantime,
yeah, well, but we don't give up on the strike issue. Of course, a strike on the internet cannot be like people walking, up and down the road with signs in their hands. No, but what we do have is we have the power to do shitstorms. So we can actually, with all the public support that we have, we can really make a create a PR disaster for YouTube. And that's also something that we're doing. We're just not telling people what kind of plans we have. But I tell you, we have a few ideas that we would actually love to really do. But of course, as long as YouTube negotiates, we won't do any of that. Okay. But those will be highly entertaining, I can guarantee. So
it's very well. First of all, it's very interesting, and I say excited. We'll see where it goes. And I just discovered an amazing feature that I can actually I can put a comment up so everyone can see it.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Mandatory carry. Thank you very much. What we want is all creators getting their back pay for illegally demonetized videos. I mean, that's a question that I brought up in one of my previous videos, because there's a lot of people. Actually, thank you for bringing that up, mandatory carry, because that's a big question. There's a lot of people who are saying the advertiser money is actually just not there anymore, and what YouTube is doing is not political. It's not content based. What they're doing is finding algorithmic ways to demonetize a video that is news dependent or newsworthy, so that it gets the views in the first day or two, but then when the news is out of the cycle, they'll remonetize it after manual review. But at the very least, then they don't have to pay the original monetization AdSense revenue. The reason that doesn't necessarily not make sense, but why that might not be logical, is that if they're getting the AdSense revenue from the advertisers, it's a win-win for them. But do you see? Is there any plausibility to that argument?
Yeah, well, if you have a little bit larger channel, what you can do is you can upload a video as unlisted, then wait for the monetization issues to settle, right? So you wait, will it be demonetized or not? And usually, if you have like more than 1,000 views per day, then they will analyze the unlisted video, even though it has no views because it's unlisted, right? Yeah. So usually within a day or two, if this video will be demonetized or not. If it's demonetized, you can appeal while it is still unlisted. So actually, it's only an issue for the news bloggers that obviously cannot wait for something. But for everybody else, there is a way to exclude this. So I would tend to say, no, that is probably not something that they would do. Otherwise, why would they give us the option to upload unlisted and have it checked? So.
Well, and that's what I'm just showing right here is it's still my New York Times one. It's 24 plus hours old and 20,000 views, still demonetized. But the only reason I thought maybe the argument why the argument might not be totally tenable is that if they collect the AdSense revenue by the advertisers, then it's a win-win for them. They have the money for themselves and they pay their 1 cent per 10,000 views. So it's not like they gain anything by demonetizing it where it would have otherwise gotten views and AdSense if eligible.
But in reality, the problem begins way earlier. YouTube tells us they're paying us 55% of the revenues they give it to creators, but we have no means to control this. I mean, YouTube doesn't even publish their sales. They don't even say how much revenue they have. It's somewhere hidden in Alphabet's huge balance sheet, but we don't know this. So do we really know that we get 55%? Like a normal license, I've been doing license deals in the consumer electronic business for many, many years, decades actually. Usually when you do a license deal like this, where there's a split of income, the other side gets the right to look into the books if there is like distrust, right? I mean, this definitely. I think if no lawyer would ever write a contract where that wouldn't be a given. So if there's a 45-55% split and one side believes that it's getting cheated, then you can actually have an audit happening, right? You can send in the auditors and making sure that everything is okay. Does YouTube allow us to do this? Of course not. They might actually give us 10% or 5% or I don't know what, but they say it's 55%. We have no means to control this.
Incidentally, it's always why I discourage clients from going with percentage rents, because if you agree to the landlord to a percentage rent, you are allowing the landlord to audit your books if they want to make sure that they're getting the actual percentage of sales. And having dealt with these video licensing agencies, I know they say we get a 60-40 split, but it's on trust, and it's only if I find the video licensed somewhere that I didn't get payment for that I begin to distrust the video licensing agency. There is minimal transparency there as well. That's interesting. Now, hold on, I'm going to see. Look at that, beautiful. And thank you very much, Ian Steele. Joerg, will you push for a pre-screen feature for creators? A simple checkbox: upload a video and get confirmation to upload only after it's accepted.
Yeah, I actually, the whole thing is I want complete transparency of the rules. So first of all, if they would really tell us the rules, if they would finally publish the guidelines that they give to all of their raters, like censors, these people get extensive material about how to decide, right? Then actually it would not really be necessary anymore, since we would exactly know what we can do, what we cannot do. Second thing is also that clearly there must be some kind of pre-screening and negotiation. I want, like when you appeal against the demonetization, and they deny it, they don't give you any reason. They say, okay, read it up in the guideline, something you did something in there. We are not telling you what, but it's somewhere in there. I mean, they should be getting back to us saying, it's fine, but there is this sentence that is just too drastic. So if you can delete it or say it in any other way, we will let the video through. This is what I believe how it should happen. You cannot do this otherwise. So.
Do we know, this is a suspicion that I've always had, is that the manual review is not by a human. When a video gets demonetized, I request manual review. Sometimes I get the sneaking suspicion it's done by another higher level bot or AI, or that it's not manual review at all.
Let me say it is. I don't think it's a bot, because I actually know for sure positively that most of their raters are in third world countries. Like the Philippines, for example, they have a lot of raters that are there. Those people are working for independent companies, of course, and first of all, their training is very, very poor. So if you get one of these raters, then they will be very poorly trained, and also they will probably be given 3 seconds to look at your video, right? They don't get the time to watch an entire 5-minute video. They will only watch very selected places, and then they will actually decide. I know this because they're also writing comments into their reports. So they're actually typing in why they've decided this or the other way. But this is also something that I want YouTube to publish. I want to be able to read what their raters have written about my video. And by law in Europe, they have to do this. They have to tell me if I ask, which they refuse to do. So it's this kind of transparency that I simply demand. And I believe it's unfair. They decide about my work without telling me and without even letting me know why they've decided that way. So
And
so
you know
that's not how you treat a partner, clearly.
No, well, first of all, these are the transparency things that actually don't cost them money, and we'll get into the issue. We'll get into the demands that I think would cost them a lot of money in a second. First thing first, someone said that the super chats are on the top right of the screen. I'm using StreamYard as a live streaming thing, so I don't see things necessarily the way they appear exactly on YouTube. So I hope I haven't missed anybody's super chat. If I have, please let me know. Second thing, my dog might be shaking the table underneath here, so if it vibrates, I apologize. No, Jörg, the reason why I think the manual reviews are potentially automated is that I had my incident with YouTube a while back where one of my videos was demonetized and then removed for violating the terms of service as relates to hate speech, which I then appealed, and it was confirmed without any indication of anything. And then like out of the blue, re-uploaded, out of the blue became public again, and out of the blue became remonetized again. And I mean, the video, I'm not trying to defend. I'm not trying to be defensive. There's nothing reasonably in that video that could be misconstrued as hate speech by anybody. It was a legal video, a follow-up answering questions to my analysis of the Alex Jones deposition. But I had given up on the appeals process because, like you said, I appealed. That's it. Boom, shut up and go away. And that's where I was in my house here. But then it was out of the blue that the video reappeared on YouTube, and out of the blue, without a request, that it became remonetized, which led me to believe that this is all algorithmic and not actually human-based. But I don't know any better.
But they have a review process. So they also have what they call senior raters, and these people are typically employed by YouTube. They know the rules a lot better. So probably your case was reviewed by one of the senior raters, and that rater decided otherwise. So it's quality assurance that they're doing. So,
right. Do you know how many people work for YouTube? Like, do we know how many employees they have, how many independent contractors they have for this review appeals process?
They only say they have more than 10,000 raters. That's the only number that they publish.
Okay.
And a lot of them are in third world countries because it's cheaper. And those poor people, I'm not sure if you ever seen that documentary that's called Cleaners. You know, Facebook does the same. They have the same people there. And these are really, really poor people. They get like pennies for their work, and every day they have to watch like the most horrible movies and videos and stuff. So it makes them sick. It's really modern slavery, I believe. Ethically, I have a lot of issues with that, but somehow someone has to do that work, I guess.
Okay, so now we're getting into the demands of Fairtube. I mean, so transparency is one thing. Financials show us, prove that you're paying out what you say you're paying out. Transparency with the review process. Where people have issues with unions in general is when they jack up the cost of business as a result of their demands, and then they sometimes put the business out of business because of the costs of what they're demanding to be done. So, I mean, a lot of people are saying with some of these demands for YouTube, it would make them hire, let's just say 10,000, 100,000 new employees, which, okay, fine, they'll respond to the demands, but to pay for them, it's going to come out of the revenue. So there's going to be, a net gain of zero for the users at the end of the day. You'll get your transparency, but it's going to cost you your AdSense revenue to pay for the employees.
Yeah, but again, this is a misunderstanding. Again, we don't want every YouTuber to be a Google employee. We actually want to protect YouTube from getting into that situation, because I believe that if we don't do anything, if YouTube doesn't change, they will run into this trap with or without the YouTubers union, simply because we see that the governments will do this to them. So even if we don't do anything, in California, it's already started, that like Uber drivers and also YouTubers will soon be seen as employees. It's just that it's a tendency that politics doesn't accept this anymore. So we want to help them, making YouTubers true independent contractors, so that then they would not have this kind of cost. And the way how they need to change actually to make sure that this issue will go away is very cheap. It doesn't cost them a lot of money. I'm on Fairtube.org, Fairtube.info. Sorry, just going to read the proposals. Publish all categories and decision criteria that affect monetization and views of videos. I don't think anybody anywhere in the world would disagree with that. I'm not sure why. What's the argument that YouTube is saying that we can't do this? I mean, I've read reverse engineering. They say that if they would do that, then they could be reverse engineered. People could find their way around. That's always the problem. If you publish rules and you say we will need to stick to these rules to the dot, then people can find loopholes. Right? It's like lawmakers all over the world have that issue, right? So So you constantly need to change the rules to make sure that you fix all the loopholes.
Well,
So right now, of course, since they're not publishing these laws, they are actually at liberty to decide whatever they want to, hiding between their completely spongy and unclear rules. And that's a comfortable position for them to be in.
No, there's no question about that. I just don't understand. I mean, I've tried, and I'm not doing it to be, what's the word? I'm not doing it to be stubborn. I don't understand the reverse engineering argument, because the demand is let us know what the criteria is. Let us know what's blacklisted. Let us know what's not. What are people going to do? People are going to, videos to get popular need to get views. They need to get interactions. They need to get thumbs up. You can't reverse engineer engagements. So I don't understand.
You can, for example, let's say they published a list of words that you cannot say, like curses and so on, right?
Yeah.
So you publish that list that triggers the blacklist. Then people can find some really nasty words that aren't on that list and can use them in their video all day long. Right? Yeah. So this is a typical example.
Update the list, but if someone uses without using specific examples, because I have them, but if someone says, okay, instead of using a really bad word, I'm going to use a not so bad word, isn't that responding to the problem? I mean, yeah.
And it's also, my main argument against that argument, like reverse engineering, is we are not talking about ISIS people. We're talking about creators that have worked really hard to get into the monetization program, that have actually fulfilled all the very hard criteria, like getting enough subs, getting enough views within 12 months of time, and so on. These people need to be dealt with some trust, because they're partners, and you trust a partner normally. If you have made someone partner, and they only do this after reviewing these channels to make sure that's really a serious and good creator, why would that creator then go ahead, reverse engineer their rules just only to be nasty to them? I mean, that's complete bullshit. Nobody would want that.
That's a fair point. But if what YouTube wants is, to demonetize videos that use the F word, but not words that use the frig, like just say use frig, it's not reverse engineering. What it is creating the content in a way that doesn't shock and doesn't offend the rules that YouTube created. But if the idea is now not just to limit certain specific terms, certain specific content, but all forms that imply the same thing, I mean, then you'll have to it's like saying using the word poo-poo instead of shit is reverse engineering. Now we got to go put poo-poo on the list and demonetize all those videos. If you get people to express themselves in a non-offensive way, that's how you do it. So, okay, but interesting.
They need to publish these rules, because it is absolutely stupid to, there's so many channels now that get demonetized so often. People end up experimenting. They try to find out how the rules are by experimentation. I mean, that's a complete waste of time, and it's actually completely stupid. I mean, they need to change it, and it won't cost them much at all. So it's also one of the things that I'm saying. I think it will make the platform better. If there's clear rules, then this will be beneficial for the platform.
Well, unless, let's just go to what I know people thinking, unless it's going to reveal that what has been on the list have been purely political from the beginning, and it won't make things better for them. It'll make things much worse in terms of exposing what has been going on for the last 3 years, as opposed to what's going to go on for the next 5.
And I guess that some of the rules will definitely cause a PR disaster if they actually publish it. But that doesn't mean that they can't do it. I mean, Facebook has just about a year and a half ago published their guidelines, for their sensors and radars, because it got leaked. So they, why not? And this is also the issue. YouTube needs to publish them, because at some point it will be leaked. There's 10,000 radars that have access to this. It's only a question of time until someone sells it to the press. Then YouTube won't be in control anymore. So this is dangerous for them.
No, I know that, like you say, there's disclosure, and then there's compelled disclosure. There's nothing better than compelled disclosure.
Right. So I think they would be well advised to really rework this. Just go and edit it and edit out all the potential PR disasters, and then publish it so that everybody would know they're in the control now. So then that is something that we would demand. That is something that I believe this makes perfect sense to do this.
Well, I mean, on the first one, I agree. It makes total sense, unless it's going to expose an even bigger problem for them that they want to hide at all costs, which is pure, not conjecture. But anyways, it's a theory, and it's unproven. But that's my theory. You may be negotiating with people who will tooth and nail never give what you're asking for, because it's not going to solve the problem going forward, because it's going to cause an even bigger problem by revealing what's been going on up to now.
Okay, well, they can still, there's always a middle way, and we can compromise. So if they have some business secrets that they cannot reveal, well, then that doesn't mean that they shouldn't publish all the rest. I mean, come on, even they could keep a few secrets. I don't mind if they're so critical that they feel, but that doesn't mean that they can keep everything secret from us.
Okay, no, totally understand. Okay, the bullet 2 is give clear explanations for individual decisions. For example, if a video is demonetized, which parts of the video violated which criteria in the advertiser-friendly content guidelines.
But that makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, it makes sense now. And to play devil's advocate, and I'm reluctant to use the word because I don't want to call anyone the devil. The cost associated with that might be prohibitive. The logistics of what's required with that might be prohibitive. Okay,
well, I know that this argument would come, but also we can compromise. We can say, okay, then do it at least for the larger creators. Do it with people with more than, let's say, 100K subs or something. There's always ways to get this under control. And also, or give everyone 10 shots a year, so that you can say, okay, I don't understand why this video was demonetized. So I have like 5 tickets or 10 tickets a year that I can do, so that you can explain, because then you can learn from it. This is a typical example of something that we are willing to compromise and negotiate. We have these demands, yes, but it doesn't really mean that we wouldn't listen to their concerns. Still, we believe that specifically people that make a living on YouTube exclusively have a right to be told what they've done wrong if they've been, if all the income has been taken away from them.
Okay, I mean, it's interesting because then it gets into the question as to whether or not if the union starts fighting for people with 100,000 subs and more, then the argument becomes it's not representing all YouTubers, but political. I mean,
we are not representing all YouTubers. We are clearly saying we represent YouTubers that are professional, so they make most of their income on YouTube or strive to be in that position. But we're not representing hobby YouTubers. We are here for people that really have the goal to make a living on YouTube or are already making a living on YouTube. We are a union. Your union represents pros, not hobby people, right? So
it's interesting, and it's the idea of like challenges in tennis where you get 3 a match or something. It's an interesting idea. It would increase the cost, but it would have a cap on the cost so that people could anticipate the additional costs based on the number of creators that it would affect potentially. Okay, that's very.
Also, we should not forget, regarding the cost. Don't forget that the raters are already doing this. They're writing down what's disturbing them on the videos, so that people can follow up for quality assurance. YouTube has this information. They don't have to assemble it. They could simply forward it to people. So I don't see how this is going to cost them much.
It's very interesting. Okay, very cool. Give YouTubers a human contact, which is going to go back to the other one. This is bullet 3, just so everyone sees where I'm going from here. Yeah. Give YouTubers a human contact person who is qualified and authorized to explain decisions that have negative consequences on them and fix them if they are mistaken. So on the one hand, people are going to say we already have this, or YouTube is going to say you already have a manual review process. You request the review and we give you the answer. That's where it ends. You're saying, no, I want to speak with someone. And then it's going to go back to this cost of who you're going to speak with someone overseas, or you're going to speak with their supervisor, and in which case it creates a whole new level of infrastructure within YouTube and the associated costs.
Well, I have to say that in this regard, YouTube has also implemented some changes that go into this direction. Now you have Twitter and Team YouTube and so on. So there are now actually some ways how you can interact with real people in YouTube as a creator. That wasn't the case before that. So this is all pretty recent. So YouTube is also seeing this argument, I believe, that they need to change. And in fact, larger YouTubers have partner managers. So for the larger YouTubers, that's also a reality. They have a person that they can talk to. So therefore, this kind of demand is already in part being fulfilled, but we still think that it could be optimized. Specifically, I think that it would be really good if you could contact the same person like 2 or 3 times about this and a similar issue, which right now you can't. So it's still not very personal, but I think YouTube sees the need for this, and they are already moving into that direction.
Okay, very interesting. I was just about to say something, and now I forgot what it was. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is out of the blue, but going back to previous questions of demonetization. Do you know, is it the case that if people viewing the video flag your video or mark it as inappropriate, do you know what happens then? Like, does it become immediately demonetized? Does it go to Does it go to something like what? But some people say that there's two ways a video gets demonetized right off the bat through the analysis and then through subsequent brigades or people, mass people flagging videos.
Yeah, the flagging is different because there's actually a different team. And also it's even a different vice president who's responsible for that. Because you must understand that this entire flagging goes back to the community guidelines. And the community guidelines are protected by a completely different setup than the monetization. So it's actually for a lot of creators, maybe even for you, it would be better to give up partnership as a whole. Because if you give partnership up as a whole, then this mature age classifier, actually all the classifiers would go away. Right now you are a partner, and this means that every one of your videos will be analyzed. Even private non-monetized videos that you upload to your partner channel will be analyzed by the bots and also by human reviewers. So they don't care about privacy at all. If you are a partner, you have given this up. So this means that your chance to achieve a viral hit is probably higher if you give up the entire monetization issue. If you just go out of that program, because then these bots will leave you alone. These bots only affect monetized videos from people that are in the monetization program. And therefore, then only the people that take care of the community guidelines will analyze your videos. And they only do it if people flag a video. So if someone flags a video, monetization doesn't care. Only community guidelines are affected by these flaggings. Okay.
Very interesting. All right, let me see something here where we were at. Give the YouTubers a human contact. Let YouTubers contest decisions that have negative consequences. This sort of fits in with the previous ones. Okay, here we go. These are the last two, I think, are the ones that are going to, make people's ears perk up as relates to unions. Create an independent mediation board for resolving disputes. And then we talk about the Ombuds Office for crowdsourcing code of conduct. Okay, explain what you mean by that and quell people's concerns that doesn't just become as political or as, jaded as YouTube itself.
Well, first of all, the idea behind this is absolutely clear. On an equal partnership, it's not always one side who has all the decision-making power, right? If you are normally in a partnership with someone, then usually if you are in a dispute, then you go to a third neutral place and get a decision about it. Or you sit down and talk about this first. But YouTube does nothing like that. YouTube simply decides upon the disputes by themselves. They don't even explain why they have decided that way. And that is absolutely unfair. This needs to go away, I believe. Now, how you solve it, I'm actually more open. This has to be seen like a suggestion, because actually the IG Metal already runs a program like this. And I think they already have like 9 different platforms that have subscribed to it, where they have these arbitration boards. And that works quite well. Of course, it would be a huge challenge to upscale it to a company the size of YouTube, because so this was actually, I'm not even sure if you get all the judges for this, but it's a demand that we are also willing to negotiate. But the message is crystal clear. There must be some way to get a neutral judgment if there is a dispute between the two partners, YouTube and the creators, somehow.
I mean, that's going to be the major concern of all of this. Is on a smaller corporate scale, maybe it makes sense, but on the scale of YouTube, with the content, the volume of content and the volume of creators, it's you just can't do it. It's like feeding 1 billion people versus feeding 10 million.
Yeah, but then you also have to define dispute. I mean, we're not saying that a dispute, like if you say this video was demonetized and I'm not happy with this. I'm more talking about the type of disputes where people would otherwise then go to a lawyer and sue, right? Yeah. So this is usually for cases like that. If it's that hard, that would only avoid a lawsuit, which is usually more expensive than an arbitration.
No question. And the lawsuits generally change behavior quicker than anything else.
So I'm not talking about small disputes that happen every day, but something really, really serious that could potentially also be worth a lot of money, where it's absolutely clear that people would otherwise then file a lawsuit. So, and I don't think that would actually cost money. I think it would actually save money.
All right, and here, okay, well, I'm going to pronounce it Urmuminabox. 87 says, what about implementing a jury system where a randomly selected group of platform users decide if the content is objectionable? And I've heard that idea floated by a number of people, and I think other platforms do it too, where you say, like, show it to 1,000 people and then see what they say. And I think, one of the risks or the concern is that the results of that poll are going to be largely affected by the demographic of the platform. But
well, it's also, of course, it's a very American point of view. In Europe, we believe in professional judges and not so much in the jury. So I'm not sure. There's a ton of issues, and I'm actually agreeing with you that this is one of the more critical demands that will require a lot of creativity and research to really come up with some viable solution for it. But the message still is clear. I mean, the thing is, it is not acceptable that YouTube decides upon all these things independently without even discussing this with the partner, right? At least there must be some way to how to sit together and talk about this in a constructive manner if there's a dispute. Just getting an email with no content, really, like we have decided otherwise, now go away. This can't be. That is not fair, and that needs to change. How it's going to change, that's going to be more tricky than the other demands, which are somewhat easier to implement.
All right, and then the last one, which I'm going to have the same reaction to, which is formal participation of YouTubers in important decisions, for example, through a YouTuber advisory board. Okay, it's interesting in theory. I can understand how it can be implemented. You can actually have like elections from the union or the guild or whatever, appointing the people who would be on the board, and it wouldn't be like a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job type thing, but bring in the board when YouTube is making decisions at their directors meetings and whatever. But then people are going to say that this is going to be that the decisions of that advisory board are going to be just as political as the decisions by YouTube, and it's going to be a question of who has more influence within the union and whose interests are being represented, geographic, demographic, channel-wise. I mean,
okay, but that's really not really what we want. We want the YouTuber side, the creator side, to be involved into the decision making at an early stage, so that we know what is coming. So, for example, all the apocalypse things, of course, they had discussed and decided upon this many, many months before we heard from it first, right? And so this comes as a total surprise to us, and then 1 month later, it's all reality. So I believe that YouTubers need to be involved not in every small decision, but in the major policy changes. I think the creators as partners need to be informed somewhat. And since they cannot possibly do this with all the creators out there, the only way is to have a group of YouTubers that are in the loop somehow. And of course, they cannot probably not really change a decision in there, but at least we would be able to test the waters and to find out what's going on and what kind of changes are actually coming. And we could also at an early stage come with suggestions how to solve a problem. Like if YouTube would have come to us when the apocalypse started, when the Coca-Colas and so on went on strike, then probably we would have had some great ideas how to solve this problem in a better way than actually it was then approached. So I think that if this is really a team, I mean, YouTube can only make money if the creators, the users, and the advertisers play the game. So I think they need to let us participate for the best, for the benefit of the entire platform. That's what I'm convinced. How to organize it, it's a different issue, and that we cannot really be involved in any one of the decisions is also clear. But the general policy changes, would you not agree that is something that at least they should talk to creators at an early stage, where it's not too late to change things?
Well, no, I mean, definitely. The thing is, like, it's the thing about unions is nobody disagrees in principle. It's just that over time, people are people, and I always say, like, every field, every demographic has a certain degree of corruption, and it has a certain degree of self-interest in it, and it's only a matter of time before even a union, the benevolent union, which is looking out for everybody, starts to have their own factions, within, or they start to engage in what we call scope creep, which is like, their ever expanding mission, because, the unions are to some extent like the government, where they don't stay in business by actually solving the problems. They have to create work to stay in business. So you never have a union go away once it sets its claws in.
Okay, but don't forget that we are not a conventional trade union. We are a movement. So this is really a difference. I mean, people still get this misunderstanding, and I know where it's coming from, but we won't ever be a trade union in the conventional way. We will just be a movement of people that is loosely formed. But also, I have to say that I'm not sure if you realized that we had decided upon these demands via a poll in the YouTubers Union Facebook group. And actually, the way how we set them up is hierarchical. So, like, transparency was what like everybody wanted transparency. It was completely the most popular demand that we had. And then the least popular was what we had at the bottom. So in fact, also many people in the YouTubers Union see it that way. And for us, it's absolutely clear. We have a clear task to do. So like transparency, we would be much less willing to compromise than when it comes to like this decision and this arbitration boards.
Well, no, I mean, that's the bottom line is that there's no cost to, at the very least, the top two demands, which are the ones that everybody's been asking for, is just tell me. And I've been begging and like pulling my hair out to say, just tell me what gets demonetized, and I'll make the decision as to whether or not I still want to make the video. Some of them are no brainers, but I'm trying to think of some surprising videos that I've had that were demonetized for absolutely there's no reason. I made a video about Justin Trudeau. It's a pure legal video in a fun family setting, demonetized, reapproved afterwards. And it's not so much the monetization that irks me and that drives me nuts. It's the fact that I feel that the video is being suppressed or not exposed to some extent while it's in that state, which
I know.
Seems to be the case.
Experience too. I think every YouTuber has these issues now. So no matter what you do, you always run into this, and this is so. We are absolutely more adamant in that regard. Transparency, they must do something, and I'm not saying that we won't be willing to settle on compromises here and there. It's normal that you do this when when you go into a negotiation. Of course, you will. There's give and take. It's always the case. But of course, we are first coming in with all of our demands, and then we'll see where it ends. But on the legal issues and regarding transparency, I think they need to act. And I really, if they really don't want to budge, if they want to insist to keep things the way they are now, then they will have to face the consequences. And our threats are not hollow. We will go ahead and put every one of them into reality.
Well, and instantly, I've been saying and I think I have doubt that you guys will take the lawsuit route if and when, but I'm betting man, and I'm betting that they're going to get regulated, or they're going to have the government intervene and say, show us, open up your books, not just for the future, but for the past, because they're going to get the government involved, which might be even worse than negotiating with the general public. I'll tell you, my major concern in the back of my head is when you're a lawyer and you're negotiating with the other party, you presume that they're of good faith, and hopefully they are, but you get into a situation where at times you realize that you're negotiating with someone who is not going to be willing to truly negotiate in full transparency. And my question is whether or not that's going to be the situation with YouTube, or whether or not they are in fact going to be willing to open up their books to some extent.
I don't know either. I mean, for us, first of all, it was a big success that they decided to get back to us and say, yes, let's meet. And they did this within the deadline that we set. So, someone who does that, who agrees to a deadline like that, it means that our threats have actually been fallen onto some fertile ground, because it's clear that if they would have thought they can just fight this all out in court, they would simply not have responded. Now, the fact that they came back 8 hours before the deadline ran out clearly says they are afraid. And this also means that they will negotiate and they will give in. And of course, I hope that they will do that. But I have no idea. I mean, this is an absolute first. I don't think we ever had like an official negotiation between a YouTubers representation group like the YouTubers Union and YouTube, in history. It's a first. We will see how it is.
What is next on the horizon? So they've responded. What are the next steps? What's next on the schedule?
Actually, we have of course now it's needed to find a proper date, which is not easy because very important people on both sides want to attend, and these people have really, really tight schedules. So suggestions have been going back and forth, and there is now a date. And I'm waiting for official confirmation, but I think that it will happen in October. So in October, we will have the first meeting in Berlin, in Google's headquarters. And then we will see how it goes. So this will be very interesting, very exciting to see. Of course, this will require many more meetings if, this cannot possibly done in one meeting. My goal for the first meeting is really only to make them understand that our 3 basic demands, because we really have 3 basic demands: transparency, better communication style, and fairness. So these 3 issues, if they say we see that we need to change things in order to be more transparent, in order to have a better communication, and in order to be more fair, that would be, a success for me. And then we can split this into smaller topics and meet again, maybe with expert teams, and work out solutions. But if they would generally say, yes, we realize we need to change and we will change, let's sit down and work on this together, that will be all I'm asking for the first meeting.
Okay, well, that's amazing. I'm just going to double check my thorough notes over here to make sure I got everything. If anybody has, before we get out of here, if anyone has any questions that I didn't get to, start posting them now and we'll see what we can answer. Those are the next steps. You, as far as it goes on YouTube, I'm just to see if I get any questions here. You're going to keep creating. You have no plans on going anywhere. Have you opened a BitChute account? Do you know what BitChute is?
Yeah, I know what BitChute is. I call it suicide for professional YouTubers. So
explain why. I mean, tell me what you mean.
Because there's no payment model. So let's say I open a channel on BitChute. First of all, they don't have a recommendation system and they have very little traffic. So I would only bring my own audience from YouTube to BitChute. I would find it really hard to find new viewers there, since without a recommendation system and without a lot of traffic, how are you going to do that? So I would bring people from my monetized YouTube videos to a platform that is not monetized. So they would no longer watch my video on YouTube, but on the non-monetized platform. How am I going to make a living from this? So without a monetization scheme behind it, for me, it's complete nonsense. So it doesn't make any sense for me. So
you may make people unhappy by saying that, because a lot of people are saying if the market will follow the people. If everybody moves to BitChute, then the advertisers will go there, et cetera, et cetera. And that may or may not be the case. And people say, why don't people just create a new platform? I mean,
I know they say this, but it's actually impossible, because imagine what kind of money you would need. It's also always, these new platforms always have bandwidth issues. Like if a large channel, I've tried this actually with some other platforms. When I upload a video to this and direct my audience to there, they get probably 100,000 views within the first few minutes. And usually their servers crash when you do this. So this is what happens all the time. If you want to reproduce the huge server farms that YouTube has installed, you know how expensive that is? And
I think it's prohibitive. I think it's like laying fiber optics across an ocean type thing. I don't think anybody can do it.
You know what kind of money YouTube and Google have invested into this infrastructure? It's mind-boggling. So I don't think that this can be reproduced now. They have a monopoly that is here to stay. But I'm also saying YouTube needs to publish clear rules. For example, look at the firearm guys. They're actually step-by-step completely taking all income sources away from people that make videos about firearms, right? Now, they can no longer monetize, of course. They can no longer do sponsored videos because they're not allowed to post links to places where you can buy a gun into the video. So they're taking it out. I think it would be much better if YouTube would clearly say, firearm videos are prohibited on our platform. Go pack up and find some other place, like they did for example, with porn movies. Now that gave platforms like Pornhub and YouPorn a chance to do something. Whereas firearm guys still hope that they can make it on YouTube, but they can't. So they would be advised to go to a specialist, smaller network that is focused on firearms, because then it's also a task that can probably be achieved. But be a general competitor to YouTube, I don't think it would work. So
I just have to say to Glauco Benigni, I'm talking slow. For anyone who watches my videos, I'm doing my best. I do apologize. I've been told I talk fast.
You're a lawyer after all, so.
Well, I'm a lawyer. I'm a bit, maybe a little bit hyperactive, but and we got another lawyer in the house, Nate. How's it going, Nate? I had a question. Oh yes. Now, from my own hyperactive imagination side, is there any credibility to the idea that if I even put the words BitChute and links in my descriptions, am I harming my own channel on YouTube?
It could be. I don't know that. This is, again, something that might be the case because, as I said, it's a blacklisted one and it's dynamic. It changes all the time. So it could be. But as long as they're not transparent about it, there's no way to find out. It could be on the list today and disappear tomorrow and reappear on Sunday, because it's a dynamic list that is not static.
Very interesting. Okay, and Jörg, questions that I've had for you this entire interview. Do you hold a world record in fastest projectile for a slingshot?
Fastest, maybe not, but maybe the most energy, So because when you want to shoot something really fast, you have to use a tiny pellet, and that can fly very fast. But I'm more like into very, very strong slingshots, since I'm a powerful guy. And what fascinates me on slingshots is that this simple material, natural rubber, can actually turn my really slow muscle power into really high kinetic energy. So I got a slingshot. I just once even have a video about it. It's demonetized by now, where I'm comparing the momentum of my slingshot, of my powerful slingshot, against handguns. And actually, I was beating the 45 ACP, and only the 44 Magnum was doing a little bit better than my slingshot.
In terms of energy, not in terms of speed.
No, in terms of momentum.
Momentum.
Yes.
Okay.
Energy, the handguns are much, much better. But, so momentum is, for example, if you shoot against a pendulum, right? That is momentum. So, I was able to swing the heavy pendulum more far than the 45 ACP.
That's amazing. And have you been officially recognized by Guinness, or have you not applied for that yet?
No, Guinness no longer does weapon-based records, so that's out.
That explains it. I mean, because I was reading an article that said that they had minimal, or if any, records as far as slingshots go. But that makes sense.
Also what I like on slingshots is that it's like a wild thing. It's not an Olympic sport with 1 million rules and so on. But it's something that it's like the cheapest way how you could shoot anything. Like it's the poor man's archery. So that's what I like about it. Nothing is regulated, everything is free, and everybody can shoot a slingshot the way he likes. So that's the fun part of it.
No, it's very interesting. What was the thing? Now I forget. What is the projectile feet per second? Is it 400 feet per second and it becomes recognized as a firearm, or is it 500 feet per second? If anybody,
that is a legal issue in Germany. It is an air gun is unregulated if it's under 7.5 joule, which is about 5 foot-pounds. So it's more like the energy level is measured. But in Germany, it's very strict. You can still have guns, all kinds of guns, but you need a license, which is easy to get, actually. Basically, if you want a license in Germany for a firearm, you have to go to school. You have to go learn how to, your way around guns, and then you can own one if you want. As a hunter, as a sportsman, as a collector. So there's many ways, and there's many guns in Germany. Most people in America believe that in Germany all guns are banned. That's of course completely wrong. I have 34 guns on my licenses, so probably more than the average American even. So,
I think I'd be more nervous of the slingshots.
And I'm using my slingshots a lot more often, because with the guns, I need to drive to the range and shoot there, and then be very careful, follow all the rules. With my slingshot, I can shoot in my backyard at anything I want to. So it's actually, I think, a lot more fun. And I actually haven't shot my firearms in a long time.
Very interesting. Now, before I forget, I think 3 Steps Sideways asked if I had an address where people can send stuff. I should post it more often, but in my About on my YouTube channel, I have a P.O. box address listed there, which I should probably go visit. I haven't been there in a couple of months. But in the About section on my channel, there's all the contact info. And now, before I forget, the ballistics gel that you use, where do you do? If you've said it in a video, I apologize. I didn't see the videos. I didn't see all of them. But where do you get it, and how do you get a coconut inside the ballistics gel?
Well, first of all, I get it actually from the biggest manufacturer worldwide for that stuff. They're officially FBI certified and everything, and it happens to be just 10 minutes from here. When I moved to this house here, I said, it's impossible. That's the company that I'm buying the gelatin from. So I called them up and said, can I go and make a video about it? And they said, yeah, sure. So I have a video on my channel that's called Ballistic Gelatin Demystified or something, where I explain the entire procedure, how it's made, how it's prepared, what is the difference between ballistic gelatin and normal gelatin, all these things. So
and if anybody watching now, if anybody's able to find that link and post it, that would be great. But I'll find it afterwards and post it in one of the comments here.
Yes.
All right, let's do this now. Anyone have any questions that I didn't get to before we call it quits here? It's getting late in Germany.
Yeah, I need to walk the dog. So
no, I know. First of all, thank you. I haven't thanked you yet. Thank you very much for doing this. For anyone who doesn't know, this started with Joerg responding to my video where I was talking about the YouTube union situation, and then I asked if he would be game to do a live stream, and he said yes, and it was fantastic. And Joerg, you don't look like a sensitive type. I hope you don't take that video too seriously. It was sort of tongue in cheek in terms of negotiating. And I do appreciate that, from the union perspective, you have to maintain an outward appearance towards the person you're negotiating with, but then you also have to come back to the people who are following you and encourage them as to what's going on. And there's two ways of doing that. So
your points were absolutely valid, and I completely agree. It's just that, of course, as an outsider, you often don't see the dynamics of the process itself. So.
Well, no, I'm happy you're making headway. I hope I'm wrong in my cynicism as to potential reluctance to actually negotiate, but I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that we get somewhere, because as a creator, I mean, it is frustrating as a creator to see diminishing returns on increasing efforts. And if I knew what was going on, I might not change anything, but I might change something. So
things need to change. That's for sure. Things have to change, and they will change. The question is, in what way and how soon? So.
All right, well, Joerg, thank you for doing this. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for clarifying, incidentally, because I was under the impression that this was sort of like a union in the traditional sense. I appreciate the movement aspect of it much more now. So and I hope everybody who's watching, now knows a little more and understands it better. And I'm sure most people here are already following you, but if not, they know who you are and they know what you're doing now. So, Godspeed.
Okay, thanks.
Now I'm going to end the broadcast, and then we're going to stay on for a couple more seconds. But everyone, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye. And